Hi, this is Scott with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing the EcoHitch on our 2025 Toyota Camry. Our EcoHitch on our Camry is a pretty good looking hitch. For the most part, it's pretty much hidden. You're not going to see any cross tubes. It's going to have a matte black finish on it, so it's not going to stick out a whole lot once you get it installed on the back of your Camry. This is going to be a 2-inch hitch, so it's going to accommodate most of your common accessories that are out there on the market. And another nice thing about it is everything's really accessible on this one. You're going to have access to your pinholes and your safety hooks real easily. The hitch is going to have a 5/8 pinhole opening, and that's going to lock in any of your accessories. Now this one won't come with a pin and clip, so you can pick one up here at eTrailer. Another nice option is a locking pin. With that, you'll be able to lock your bike rack onto your car while you're down out on the trail. You don't have to worry about anyone taking that off of the back while you're gone. This hitch is going to have really heavy duty welded on safety chain loops. It's going to accommodate either your S-style hooks or your clevis style hooks. So that is going to accommodate your trailer towing needs. Now as far as measurements go, from the center of the pinhole out to the edge of your bumper, it isn't very much. You're only looking at about 1 3/4 inches. Now with that measurement, you'll be able to figure out if any of your accessories that fold up and stow away will make any contact with the back of your vehicle. Now from the top of our hitch to the ground, we are looking at right around 13 inches for that number. Now with that, you'll be able to decide if you need any rise in the shank of either your bike carriers or your cargo carriers for clearance in the back of your vehicle. As far as weight ratings for this hitch, we're looking at a tongue weight rating of 350 pounds. That's going to be the weight pushing down on the lower section of your receiver. That's going to be the total weight of your bike rack with your bikes on it or your cargo carrier loaded down with all of your gear. Now for a trailer weight rating, we're looking at 2,000 pounds gross trailer weight rating, and that's going to be the weight of your trailer and everything that you have on that. Now keep in mind, it's always a good idea to take a look in your owner's manual and make sure you don't exceed the maximum towing weight that you have in there. So best bet is usually to go between the lowest number between your hitch and your owner's manual. If you have any questions or comments about this hitch, feel free to leave any questions or comments down below in the comment section, or you can get a hold of one of our experts here at eTrailer. As far as installation goes, from what I can see, this is going to be about the only 2-inch option that's going to be on the market for this vehicle. This hitch is very complicated to put on, and this was kind of an all-day thing for me, and I put on hitches every single day. Now, if it's something you don't feel like doing yourself, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and have something done for you locally. If it's something you feel like tackling yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. To start our installation, we've got our trunk open, and we're going to need to get our tail lights out of the way because we're going to need to remove our whole entire fascia on the rear. All we're going to have is these little plastic covers, and we just want to get these popped out of the way. Just get behind those, pop those out, and we'll do that on both sides. Behind that cover, we're going to have 3 10mm bolts. We'll just go ahead and get those out of the way. After our bolts are out, you just want to carefully remove our tail light. Just pull back. Now we'll have our wiring harnesses in here. Just want to push in on the tab. Pull back on those and get those out of the way. Both of those, you just push down on the little tab and pull those back. Now we can set our light safely out of the way. On both sides of our vehicle, we're going to have this tiny little clip, and we need to get our finger in behind that. It's going to be really small little clip, and you can use a small screwdriver or whatever you have. Just want to pull out on that, just wiggle that back and forth, and that'll pop out for you. Make sure and put that where you're not going to lose it, because that is a really small clip. Now on our model, we're going to have this mud flap, so I'm going to go ahead and get these out of the way as well. That way I can make sure there's no other fasteners behind our flap. Now I'm using an angled driver to get this backed out. You can use like a little handheld type deal to get these out because it is kind of a tight space. Just get these out and set these aside. We had one more screw underneath. Now we can just pull this out of the way. Now I'm going to check and see if I have any fasteners behind here. And it looks like I do not. So I could probably get away with just taking out the two. This one on the inside. And then this bottom one, we should be able to just leave the rest of that on the other side. Underneath of our vehicle, we're going to have this large underbody panel. We're going to need to get this out of the way as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go along and see where it's attached. And we're going to have a whole bunch of these little plastic clips. And best way to do these is just try and get in there with a flathead screwdriver. And just work those back and forth until that center section comes out. Once we get that to come down, pull down on our fastener and that'll come out. Now I'm just going to follow that along all the way around and get all of our plastic clips out, and then we'll move on to our plastic nuts. On the inside part of our panel, we're going to have some 10 millimeters. Just want to get those removed. And some of these are going to be plastic nuts, so don't put a lot of upward pressure on it. And if you have to, you can pull down on the panel just a little bit. Now here in the middle of our panel, we're going to have a different size. These are going to be 13 millimeter. And again, they're going to be a plastic nut, so if you have to, you can pull down lightly with a little bit of pressure. You just don't want to be pushing up on them. Now with those loosened up, we can remove our panel and get this set off to the side. We're going to need to lower our exhaust a little bit to make room and remove a heat shield. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a cam buckle strap. And we're just going to find a good place to get this underneath. We're going to need this to help support our exhaust when we remove our mounts. I want to get that hooked in place. Pull that tight. That's going to help support our exhaust when we remove our mounts. 12 millimeter socket. We're going to have our bracket that's kind of hidden up in here. You're going to see two bolts for that. We just want to get those removed. For the bracket on the back of our vehicle, I still like to hold on to the exhaust when I get down to my last one, even though we do have the strap. I like to do that just to be sure. Just carefully let that down. Now we're going to have a heat shield under here. We just want to get that removed. That's going to be two 10 millimeter nuts. Now we can remove that and set that aside. To remove our fascia, we just want to start on the edge and just pull back, and it's going to pop out along our edge all the way across the back. Now, once we get that pop back, you may have an electrical connection. We have one here. Just want to pull in on that clip. Push down on your clip. Pop back. Now we can remove our fascia. On our bumper beam, we're going to have this foam. We just want to pop that off. That's just going to slide into these holes. Remove that for now. We'll get that set aside. We're going to have these End caps, plastic, we want to get those removed. Those are going to be a 10mm socket. Those will just slide out the ends. And you're going to have this little plastic tab over here that's going to be in the way. You can bend that up a little bit just to get that to slide out of the way. With that out of the way, we're going to have this plastic cap. You're going to have a little tab right here in this little square. Take a screwdriver, push that down, and then you can rock that back. We'll do that on both sides. To get our bumper beam out of the way, we're going to have 6 14mm bolts. Once we get down to the last one, we want to make sure we're holding our bumper beam in place so it doesn't fall off. With all those out, now we can remove our bumper beam. We're going to have this hole where there was a rubber plug. We just want to remove that. It's kind of midway back on our frame. We just need to enlarge this a little bit because we're going to need to get a little plate to go through there, and this one's just not quite enough to do it. So I'm going to use a step drill, and I'm going to enlarge that a little bit till I get it to where I need it to be. That should do it for it there. I'll come back through with a little black paint and just get that covered up so we don't have any corrosion in the future. On the passenger side, we're going to have this backup warning alarm speaker in the way. We want to get that removed because right below that is the other hole that we're going to need to enlarge. I'll just tuck the speaker up out of the way, and I'll do the same thing with the enlarging on the passenger side. For our hardware that's going to go in the holes that we enlarged, we're going to have our gold color bolts. We're going to have a lock style washer that goes on top of our black spacer. Now we're going to take our fish wire that comes in our kit, and we're going to thread that onto the end of our bolt. Now we're going to do what is called a reverse fish wire. We're going to push our plate up in through the hole. Push our bolt up through. Now we can pull our bolt back through our plate. Carefully remove our fish wire because we will be using it on the other side. In the rear of our vehicle, we're going to have this sealant. We're going to have some on the outside and on the inside. We're going to want to remove this, so I'm just going to take a multi-tool and just kind of run up this and get that removed. You can use a putty knife or whatever you want to use, but I'm just going to use this, and we'll go ahead and get that removed. After we have all that cleared up, you're going to see a little bit of bare metal. I do recommend you come back through with a little bit of paint and just touch that up and let that dry. And I'll do that on the inside and the outside. We have our heat shield, and I went ahead and marked out the cuts that we're going to make in it. We need to make clearance for where the hitch is going to be and also for where our bolt is going to come through. That is in the enlarged hole area that we made. We have that bolt going through there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this hole drilled out, and then I'm going to snip this area out, and we'll see how that fits. I'm just going to take some tin snips and run across down here. And you can use either a Dremel or snips work as well, whatever you have. This stuff's pretty thin, so it's going to cut pretty easy for you. I do recommend this stuff can get pretty sharp, and because it's thin, I would make sure you have some gloves on before you start doing this so you're protecting your hands. Now we have that all cut out where we need it to be, and this should work out for us really well. Again, I do stress that you got to be careful with this stuff, especially when you're cutting it with snips. This stuff gets really sharp. You're going to get some jagged edges, so just be careful of that when you're trimming this up. Now we did go by our measurements in our manual, so we're going to go ahead and test fit it up, and that should be where we need it to be. If not, we can always come back through and trim it up or widen any of the holes that we need in case we got off just a little bit. So it's no big deal, but we'll go ahead and we'll get it put in place. Now we'll just line up the studs where our heat shield mount goes. And that looks like it's going to line up very well. Now we'll get our hitch lifted into place. Now make sure you be careful not to push that bolt through the frame. We want to make sure we don't have that go through. Now getting your hardware in place with this one is really very tricky, just getting your holes to line up, and you're going to have your exhaust hanger off of your isolator and ready to get mounted here, because this is where it's going to go with your bolts that you're running up with your hitch. Now keep in mind, it's going to take maybe a couple of your buddies to help you out with this to get everything moved around, to get it put in place, because it can be really tricky. Back here with the bolt that we had run through our frame, we're going to have our flat washer, our lock washer, and one of the gold colored nuts holding that in place on both sides. For now, we're going to come back through and torque down our hardware that we have underneath of our hitch, and then we'll move on to the next step. So what you're going to want to do is go through your instruction manual and make sure, because you have different torque settings for different sized hardware. So you're going to want to pick your way through that and pick the right setting for each piece of hardware that you're torquing down. Now, if you don't have a torque wrench, you can always pick one up here at eTrailer. We have a few options available for those. But if it's something you want to get done right away, you can always take a look at your local auto parts store, and you should be able to rent one there. We're going to take our backer plate, and we're going to have a large hole and a small hole. We're going to take it and run it through. We're going to have our bolt with our washer. We're going to run that through that. And we're going to take one of our large gold washers, run that onto our bolt, follow that up with a lock washer, and then our nut. And we're just going to get that loosely in place for now. With those in place for our upper hole, we want to enlarge the hole that's there or drill a hole to 3/8. We can take our bolt, it's going to be the smaller gold bolt, a washer, run that through. Make sure you're holding up your plate in the back, let that go through there. Then we're going to follow that up behind with a flat washer, a lock washer, and then the nut. Now that we have our hardware in place here and snug down, we'll come back through and torque down our hardware to our specifications in our instruction manual. Now we'll get our exhaust put back into place. Just want to start by getting our rear hanger slid over our exhaust hook that we put back on. And don't forget, we have our rear exhaust bracket as well. Let's get those put back in place. Now we'll get our bumper beam put back in place the same way that we took it off. Now we got our foam piece put back in place and our end caps. We got everything good to go there. Now we're going to finish trimming up, and we're going to end up having to put this up in place here. We're going to get that screwed in place, and we'll show you where we're going to do that. We couldn't get the hole over here where it's supposed to screw into with the supplied hardware to work. It just wouldn't line up. So I just took a self-tapper and self-tapped it just in behind our hitch. And that's going to work just perfect for us. And now we'll move on to our next step. To finish up our installation, we had to trim a little bit more out of our bumper just to get that to work. But we left quite a bit in here because if we were cut any more, it wouldn't really look right because it was in this bend, so we left it. Other than that, we had to trim out our belly pan and get all our fasteners put in for that. And we had to pull it back off and trim out some more, and it got a little bit tricky, so be prepared to have to trim up a few times when you're fitting these things back together. It can be a little tricky and time consuming. Other than that, we put everything back together in reverse order, and now we have everything all done for our installation. And that was a look at the EcoHitch on our 2025 Toyota Camry. I'm Scott with eTrailer, and thanks for watching.